Hello and welcome back to Westwood. We currently have 526 citizens and we are on a mission to build a large city so that we can unlock the achievement Industry Tycoon. We're going to go ahead and speed this back up to 3x and get this city underway. Now, as mentioned in the previous video, we need a lot of people in order to build out all the unique factories to unlock this achievement. So we're going to have to keep an eye on power, water, and trash, which is going to start piling up, and we'll probably start seeing errors at any moment. Now, one of the questions that came up when I shared this with a friend, they asked, why are you only using dirt roads? And the reason for dirt roads is because they are cheap. Unlike other roads, you'd have to spend quite a bit up front. They are the cheapest road in the game. So when you're just getting started, there's not a lot of traffic demands, they are by far the best choice for starting a new city. So we're going to go ahead, drop down some more dirt roads. Now you can see we have some flooding that's going to happen here. We'll have to take care of that a little later in the game. We'll build some banks already to a worthy village. Now this icon here indicates that we can now purchase a new piece of land, and we definitely want to do that even if we aren't going to use it immediately. And the reason we want to purchase that land even if we're not ready to start utilizing it is because disasters enabled, and disasters happen randomly on the map, and the bigger the map is, the less likely they are to affect the area we're working in. So we have a couple of choices here. For the time being, I feel like this is the safest bet. It'll allow us to have a secondary road network as well as give us more places to pull water from, and it'll give us a lot of agricultural land to work with and a lot of area around it for either residential, commercial, or additional industrial. So we'll go ahead and grab that. And now, because we have more space, if a disaster happens, say a tornado, there's a better chance that it won't impact our immediate area where we're focused in. So we'll zoom back in. Okay, so where'd we leave off? We are trying to grow the city rapidly. I'm going to go ahead and fast forward this so you don't have to watch me do all this clicking. You'll see that they are slowly filling in around the edges. And we're going to go ahead and increase the speed to 3x to keep that going quickly. I'm going to go ahead and point out a problem. So we have power, and we keep dropping down turbines. Unfortunately, at 8 megawatts each, the reality is we'd end up with a lot of turbines before we'd to keep up with the demand. So we're going to need something with a little bit more oomph. So we're going to drop down this 40 megawatt coal-fired power plant, and it's going to create a ton of pollution. So we want to put it with the rest of the industry area. But now if we look at our power, we're overproducing on power, which means we're wasting money. And right now our income's still pretty low. So we definitely want to keep an eye on that. Well, we can do that two ways. We could either turn the things off, which is fine, increasing our overall revenue and reducing our overproduction. The problem is, as we keep growing, the power demands are going to come back up. And we're going to end up bouncing back and forth, adding power plants and turning things on, turning things off until we start to achieve a steadier state. So we have this fertile land, and now we've unlocked even more fertile land. And we'll save this for a genuine industry area, which we could do now, but we don't have a large enough population to really warrant jumping into a full-blown industrial area just quite yet. One of the things that you learn as you play this game a bit is you realize what you want to do and what you should do don't necessarily always align. You may want to give your citizens healthcare. You may want to give them an industrial area, but until you have enough citizens, it's a risky proposition in that it can cost you more than you can afford, and before you know it, you're bankrupt. So what we're going to do is go ahead and align that grid, bring it out into that area down below, and we're going to continue with our four main road spacing, just as before, and before you know it, we will have filled up the entire working area with grid. Now our next real goal here is to get to high density residential, and we need 7,500 persons to get there. That is going to be the next major hurdle that we want to achieve. And we always want to keep either some kind of commercial or, in the future, an office buffer between residents in most industrial areas in order to ensure that they don't complain too much about noise and pollution. I'm seeing a number of shadowy figures. Our crime rate is skyrocketing because we have no police whatsoever. We also have no education, which helps limit the spread of crime. So let's go ahead and drop down a police station. Where do you put a police station? Fortunately, we don't want to drop it directly on one of these dirt roads, because if we do, then if we upgrade the road, we're going to have to move it later. So let's go ahead and preemptively upgrade this road, and then we will drop down that police station. So let's go ahead and drop down a fire station as well preemptively. Done. Perfect. Smiley faces galore. For the most part, people are unhappy, and that's because we're not providing a lot of services such as education, mass transit, parks, and the works. We'll get that number up. Now that we have that upgraded road, we could start building upgraded roads because that's where we're going to end up once we get to higher density. But for the time being, we'll stick with the dirt roads until we unlock that high density. It's important to not rush to more expensive roads until you can easily fund them. We're going to go ahead and keep pressing forward. We're basically going to ignore things like healthcare until we absolutely have to. So in this case, we do have dead bodies stacking up. We're going to have to give them a cemetery. We can get away without giving them a medical clinic. In fact, we can probably get away with it for quite a while. The cemetery is another opportunity to look at custom assets. And the reason I say that is because the cemetery, for what it's worth, it's not as good as it could be. The base cemetery that comes with the game. So it can hold 3,000 patients, corpses, let's call them what they are. It can hold 3,000, but it's going to run out of space. Later, when we have the crematorium available, they can only temporarily store 105. So what we'll do is we'll look at a custom asset that combines the strengths of both high storage capacity of the cemetery, the processing power of the crematorium, and we will make, between these two, a custom asset that gives us the power of both. We'll do that in a later video. Likewise, when we're moving things around, we want to keep an eye on deleting things, cleaning up, because right now, every length of pipe that's in place that's not in use is a cost. So we want to go ahead and clean those up when they're not in use. We're rapidly growing our city, but we're still not quite to high density residential. Not to worry, we will get there. Just a matter of clicks. Now, it's important to note that our grid still perfectly matches. If it didn't, we'd end up with weird tiles. Now we're growing at a decent clip, so we are making great progress. We'll be there in no time. And we're sprawling. This is a classic instance of urban sprawl. Started as an off-ramp, and now we're polluting, we're spreading, typical city building stuff. Okay. One of the biggest challenges in this game is traffic, and as the city grows, traffic's going to grow. And that's going to be another instance of a custom asset where we can optimize traffic, increasing our throughput and reducing traffic headaches using custom assets. So we're definitely going to utilize this major challenge as an opportunity to really demonstrate the strengths of custom assets. We are almost to that 7,500 threshold, and we're almost to where we can start increasing our density. There's a lot to be gained from running a highway with sound barriers right down the center of a residential neighborhood. Now, is this something that you would want in real life? Probably not. Does it work in the game? Yes, it does. As I've stated before, we want to keep costs low, and to do that, well, we got to cut services. So until we absolutely have a problem, we're going to delay that expense. We have a lot of opportunity for agriculture here, which means this area further to the north we can be used for other things such as residential, commercial, or industrial space. Now it looks like our landfill has filled up. We're going to need another landfill. Unfortunately, we have not unlocked incineration plant yet, so we'll go ahead and drop down new landfill. I want to turn this one off so we're not wasting 160 a week. I'm hoping though we can get to that 7,500 threshold pretty quickly. We'll be able to unlock that incineration plant before we absolutely have to drop down another landfill. Now, one thing you can do to promote growth if you find yourself a little sluggish is drop down additional services. So for example, we have this one police station. We can go ahead and drop down another, and we'll do so over here. Now we're right here next to this existing highway. We should probably connect to it. Now, ideally, we'd want to go ahead and do a proper on-off ramp. For the time being, we'll just go ahead and do a quick, easy, terrible thing, which is going to be that. That's ugly, it's ineffective, and frankly, dangerous. But our citizens will use it regardless. And it looks like without water, these people are not happy. Whoops. What are you going to do? So we'll want to go ahead and manually remove some of these burned down buildings in order to keep people happy. A lot of people do not like the ghost town vibe of all the abandoned buildings and burnt down sites, so we'll go ahead and clean those up while we are waiting for our population to get to 7,500. but we have plenty of space for them to grow into, so in theory it's just a matter of time. And while we're doing that, we can lay the groundwork for our first proper industrial area, utilizing this fertile land. The main farm building doesn't actually need to be in the middle of the fertile land, it just needs to be present in the industrial area, so we'll actually put it in this less fertile land. Because this small crop field doesn't actually produce noise or pollution, we could butt this all the way up to the houses, which we might. But for the time being, we will go ahead and drop down a few of these here, 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 and there. In order to get the Industrial Tycoon achievement, we're going to need all those warehouses, we're going to need all those factories, we're going to need a lot of industrial areas, and we're going to need a lot of industrial buildings. So that said, we also want to be careful where we put these things, because once they're in place, it's expensive to move them. And this allows us to keep the overall grid of the city intact without compromising the industrial area. Now, there will be instances where the grid is going to have to bend to the will of larger scale buildings, but we're going to try and keep it to a minimum. Still not quite there with the population, but we are filling out rapidly. So one of two things are going to happen. We're going to hit a wall with the population. We're going to have to give in and provide more city services to attract new residences, or we will just have to kind of wait it out for the population to grow organically. Since we're trying to be frugal, trying not to spend too much money on city services, I'm going to elect to hold out for the time being in an effort to get the number up without having to give in and give them things like education. I know you want your citizens to be happy, but you also don't want to spend on them. Typical mayoral problems. Power lines are victim to thunderstorms, meaning that if we have a thunderstorm, which is bound to happen, it's only a matter of time, we will then have conduits for fire. Basically, opportunities for things to catch on fire. So to reduce our fire exposure, it's always good to then go back and remove power lines that aren't really necessary any longer. We can then also go back and utilize that space for something a little bit more productive, like taxable income, by backfilling those spots. Now, for all my cost-saving measures, for what it's worth, the large balance in the bank has proven to be worth it. Our weekly income rate is steadily climbing, ensuring that we're remaining in the black. Because the moment we get a bankruptcy alert, we would lose out on the opportunity to unlock an achievement. We've achieved Big Town, we have another opportunity to grow the buildable area, and our next goal will be 11,000. And on that note, as promised, we rapidly grew the city. We're going to call this segment a wrap, and in our next segment, we're going to look at increasing density and start to look at building out those industrial areas necessary to unlock that achievement. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Feel free to leave any questions in the comments.